Hi guys, how are you doing? I'm telling you, I am so tired right now. I just feel like The Walking Dead, but I will soldier on. I will complete these reviews. I will do my duty for film. Okay, so this morning at 9 o'clock, bright and early, I saw La French, which is a French remake of The French Connection. And it was directed by a guy named Cedric Jimenez, starring Jean Dujardin, as I'm sure all of you know, most of you know from the movie The Artist. He was brilliant in that. And his co-star, the guy who played the bad guy, the drug kingpin in this movie, was a guy named Gilles Lellouche, and they were both fantastic in their roles. Jean was great as the magistrate who was on his tail, and he was great as the drug smuggler, drug dealer. They were both just really, really great in their roles. However, I do have to say that I was disappointed by this film. I don't know if it's because I was so tired. That might have been a factor, but I don't think it was the full factor. It just this movie lacked something critical. Okay, so for those of you who have seen the original, I mean, I knew there was no way it's going to compare to the original. There's very, very few remakes to begin with that can compare to the original films. But I mean, that film, there's just no way that anybody could have beaten that perfection. It was just a classic film. And I knew it wasn't going to be, like really comparable to that. I knew it wasn't going to measure up to that. And for what it was very well done. It was a good movie, not a bad movie, definitely a quality film, quality actors. But I just found it a little bit too long. And like I said, it just kind of lacked something. Like, for instance, in the original movie, Gene Hackman and Roy Scheider play the partners, Popeye Doyle, and I forget his partner's name in the movie, Roy Scheider's name in the movie. But they're a pair of these New York cops who are on the tail of this French drug dealer. And interestingly enough, actually, in the original movie, they were tailing Tony LaBianco, who was one of his underlings. And the guy who played the drug crime boss in this movie, this Gilles Lellouche guy, I swear to God, to me, this guy was a dead ringer for Tony LaBianco. He looked like almost exactly like him. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know if that was deliberate or not, but anyway, yeah, so in the original film, they're staking him out, they're going to all these, kind of seedy parts of town. It was a really gritty film, But this one is, visually, it's it's a brand new film. It's made in 2014, although it's set back in the 70s. I believe it's set because it's based on the French Connection story, which is a true story. This Popeye Doyle guy was on the tail of this French drug smuggler, and this took place in the 70s. So this film took place in the 70s, but I mean, it didn't look 70s. It didn't have that gritty 70s look to it. It was crystal clear, beautifully photographed, everything. So maybe that's kind of one of the reasons that it didn't really grab me as much as I thought it would, because I was maybe kind of expecting, a little bit of the atmosphere from the original film. But, I mean, this was very, very, chic. This was a very chic film, and why not? Because it's French, right? Yeah, that's the first word that comes to mind. This was a very chic film. I mean, Jean Dujardin, how much chicer can you get than him? I mean, he's so fucking good looking. Pardon my French. Pardon the pun. But he's bloody gorgeous. He's perfection. And he has got the greatest smile I think I've ever seen. I mean, the guy smiles at you and probably sunshine will fly out your ass. I'm going off on tangents here because I'm tired. Forgive me. But anyway, he's just such a great looking guy, and he's wonderful to look at. And he's a very decent actor. He's a very good actor, and he did extremely well in this role, playing this magistrate on the tail of this guy. At first he starts out as in juvenile. He's working in juvenile, helping these, troubled teens, and then he gets transferred over to the organized crime division, and that's how he gets assigned this case with this French drug lord whose name is Zamba. I believe his name is Zamba in the movie. and he just relentlessly pursues him. Like, he's very, very dedicated to his job. Like, his mission is to get this guy, and then he finds out there's all this corruption in the police department, and everybody's on the take, and this and that. But he's still, like, plugs forward, and he's determined to get this guy, and he does make very, very many dents in this guy's operation, and he makes life very difficult for him. And, so, anyway, like, yeah, bottom line, I mean, would I recommend this movie? Yes, I would recommend this movie because it is a quality film. But don't expect it to come close to the original because it doesn't. And how could it? That's not saying anything against this movie because, like I said, that original movie was so great. There's just I don't think anybody could have done that movie justice. You can't redo perfection. And, so, it was a tough act to follow, but, this director did a decent job. It was an entertaining film, good crime film. I'm not a fan of, like, action movies. I can't stand them, actually. I hate action movies. I think they're stupid. I think they're juvenile, and they're very, very boring and dumb. And although there is a lot of action in a lot of crime movies, some of them work for me, some of them don't. I like just kind of like the basic crime films, and this was a good basic crime drama that I could get into. So I enjoyed it. Acting was great. It looked great. It was a great looking film. Good story. But, what can I tell you? It just, no. It didn't come close to the original, and I was disappointed. I was expecting more from this. Whether that's fair or unfair, I don't know, but, it just didn't do it for me. Something was missing. Something was missing for me in this movie. So, saying that, I still would recommend it, though, because, it's a quality film. It's a good film. You wouldn't be wasting your money if you went and saw it. Let's put it that way. It's worth the ticket. It's worth the price of the ticket to get in. So I would go see it if I were you. But, like I said, the original is just, go rent the original and watch the original again because it's just one of my favorite crime films of all time, for sure. That and Serpico, probably. Yeah. Okay, so, that's it. I don't really have much else to say. It was a bit, like I said, it was a bit overlong too. It went on too long. Oh yeah, and another thing, another kind of critique I have about it, which is kind of off, oh, okay, now I just thought of something else. Scratch that. I noticed a lot of Scorsese influence in this movie. Like, how in his movies like Goodfellas and, Casino, how he always has like those kind of really like a lot of quick cutting, and you get a lot of these like, restaurant, montages where, the gang members are all meeting in restaurants or all having dinner together with their wives or their girlfriends, and there's conversations going on, and you get snippets of all these characters and stuff like that. This film had a lot, it was very reminiscent of that. It was done in that style a lot of the time. So I really noticed that. I really noticed that Scorsese influence in this movie. I wanted to mention that. Okay, so what else was I saying? Okay, yeah, so that ties in with the critique I have, which is like all these characters. Like in the Scorsese films, there's like, multiple characters. This one, there was like multiple characters as well. But it was very confusing. Like it was hard to follow who was who, what position they held in the organization. All these cops, there was like tons of cops on his team. It was really, really hard to follow like all these characters and okay, this is that person. Keep all these people straight. So that's another critique I kind of had with it. That's why I think Scorsese is so great at those crime films, because he's really, really good at that. He's really, really good at delineating all these characters and making them really, really easy to, kind of like identify. But in this one, no, it was confusing. I found it kind of a muddle. So that's a critique I have of it, and also that it was too long. I think it was a little bit over 2 hours. So it could have been shorter, it could have been a little bit clearer with all the characters and everything, but other than that, quality film, I would recommend it. And John Dujardin and that guy who played the crime boss, as I said, Gilles Lellouche, they were both great. Very, very good in their roles, and I enjoyed watching them. Okay, so I'll be back with my next review. Hang on.